Just like all of us, from time to time, I get caught between a client's unreasonable demand and one of my personal rules of practice or conduct. Each time that I could not convince the client otherwise, and I acquiesced to the client's demand, there was an unwanted consequence or result for the client. Let me give you one example. One time a client wanted me to violate my rule against taking the last dime off the table. A number of years ago, I was negotiating a transaction for a client who, because of the circumstances at the time, clearly had the negotiating advantage. Some would say he had all the cards. We pretty much got everything we had wanted from the transaction, but my client wanted more. Due to certain things that had happened during the course of the transaction, he was insulted by the other side and wanted to drive them into the ground. All I could think of at that time was my father's caution to me years earlier. He said every person must walk away from the negotiating table with their dignity intact and at least a small win under their belt. This has evolved into my last dime rule. I tried my best to explain to the client that we had gotten all we needed and that his vindictiveness would only leave a bad taste in the mouth of the other side. I explained that it typically gives the other side a reason to look to breach the agreement once executed and an emotional backdoor for them to justify what might otherwise be considered reprehensible behavior. My client was unmoved, and he wanted me to inflict as much pain as possible on the other side. It ran contrary to every ounce of my being and my business judgment. But I relented, and I did the job. As you might predict, within 8 months, the parties were once again in dispute over rather a stupid and minor issue, but it actually ended up in litigation that went to trial. After about 2 years and $230,000 in legal fees, my client won. But in my opinion, it was an empty victory. My client received a piece of paper called a judgment upon which he was never able to collect. And why? All because he did not listen to my advice to never take the last dime from the table in a negotiation. Like the line from The Godfather, when Michael plans to kill the Turk and the police captain that beat him, he says, "See, Sonny, it's just business." In business, there is no room for vindictiveness, no room for emotional decisions, and no room for petty disputes when it comes to revenues and profits. There are only good and poor business decisions. And it is risky and a poor business decision to leave the other side of the negotiation broken. They will find a way to lash out. So leave them a few shekels in each deal so they too can walk away and move on to their next business transaction. In my opinion, your business will benefit from this strategy, and you will be a better person as well.